maneuver!
Welcome in everybody to a brand new series I'm calling 0 Hour. This is going to be a series of deck profile videos combined with gameplay videos of that deck of every single character in the Attack on Titan Battle for Humanity set. This is a lot of work that went into this. I'm not much of a deck profile guy, so I hope you all bear with me, but these are just my initial impressions. These are early, day zero style builds. There's been a lot of those going around because we're all anxious to get our hands on the cards and start jamming. So these are decks that are meant to get you up and running with the character, show you some of the synergies, and make sure that you have some pretty important interactions for cards that you're going to find in this new standard environment. So I would be remiss not to tell you guys all about my Patreon that I have going. I have multiple tiers of support. For just $10 a month, you can commission videos of any kind that you like. If you want deck profiles, if you want gameplay analyzed, if you want meme edits, all that kind of stuff is all right there at the $10 level. I don't really have any exclusive Patreon content, and this was originally going to be a series meant for Patreon, but I realized that I don't like paywalling my content. I don't really upload enough for that to feel justified, but the more support that I get from you guys in the community, the more time I can devote to bigger projects like this. So I'm only going to mention it this once in this 0 hour video, and I think I mentioned the Patreon like once a year. So if you guys do want to support this and let me focus more of my time and energy on making content for Universus and things like that, please go check it out. Any support is greatly appreciated. Back to the deck profile, we're starting off with Annie Leonhart, focused on the life symbol with the attuned chaos symbol. Annie is actually my favorite character so far. I'm about 20 chapters into the Attack on Titan manga, and only recently started having lines and kind of doing things, but she's quickly become one of my favorites, and she's alphabetically the first. So we're starting with Annie. Annie has one of my favorite abilities in the set on the front side of her character, which is enhance commit, your non-powerful attack gains throw. Then they added the very important rider text that it cannot gain powerful. So kind of beating the cheese to the punch here. But there is a way to achieve that combo that is going to be for a different deck profile. There is a very nice combo with Annie where you can effectively have it get powerful, then lose powerful, and then it can get throw, and so you've already done the powerful and all that. So that's a different. If you're expecting that, I understand. I am the meme guy, but it's a different deck that we're gonna definitely build and maybe play on stream at some point. So the other ability is enhance spend 1 momentum. You build the top card of your deck, very simple. Then if a player has 9 or more foundations, you transform. When you transform, you become Annie Female Titan. After this character transforms into Annie Female Titan, search your deck or discard pile for one backup Titan card, with difficulty 4 or less, and build it. So there's not a lot of great options. There's really only 2 options, but we are including those in the deck because that is free value. They do increase and decrease stats, and there is definitely value in having them. So putting a couple 6-check in your deck is definitely not a bad idea right now. So we've got those in there, and we'll talk very briefly about the Titan backup. Enhance lose 1 health. You may try to block your rival's attack with a backup from your stage. This one is another good reason to have the Titans, right? You get that free value, get some defensive applications for your 7-hander in the form of the ability to block from your stage. So kind of depressing that there's no low block Titan to use, but again, we're going to take the free value where we can. We also have enhance commit 1 foundation. Your attack gets +2 speed and +2 damage. This is a very good damage pump. It's not free and it's not the best in the set. There's definitely a sacrifice of foundation for 3 speed and 3 damage. There's definitely some bigger numbers out there. But for a 7-hander who on the front side can build foundations by spending momentum, I think that this is not the worst game plan. Now, to help out that game plan, we have a pretty diverse attack lineup. So, first up, there's Colossus Titan attacks. I think this is by far the best backup that there is, right? On the backup side, on the purple side, the form is just pretty devastating. Your rival discards 2 cards is pretty insane. And then they flip 2 foundations is situationally pretty strong. And this made me kind of want to focus on like a flip plan, which you'll see with the next attack, Dragon Strike. But it doesn't really come together under life. But the big thing is this is a massive late game threat. It goes into maybe not every deck, but once you've got a deadlock amount of foundations on both sides of the board, having just a massive throw that also gives you momentum, that also is going to turn into, one of the nastiest form abilities in the game. I mean, once it leaves your stage, you also get to draw a card is really, really good. That's one of the best things a backup can do right now is draw you a card. And this one has to do it by leaving the stage, which isn't super easy to achieve. But hopefully when you do that form, you just win the game. So this is kind of an all-in late game package by itself. It's reliable to throw damage on. It just changes the landscape of the whole game. If you get a Colossus Titan backup in your stage, you're usually really set to win the game as long as you survive till the next turn. So this one's in here as a 2 of just because games can go kind of long, and you can use Annie's ability to bait out throw hate and then hit them with the Colossus Titan afterwards. So very cool stuff, but mostly it's in here for the transform side, the backup side. Dragon Strike is just one of the best pieces of control that life has. You don't have a lot of ways to actually interact with the rival stage, especially not targeted ways. It is not the best attack to be throwing out, but the response works on block as well, and it does give us dual momentum outlets with a really good deadlock response. So again, these games are gonna be teetering on the edge of deadlock for a lot of characters, a lot of the transform at 9 foundations characters, right? And so we being the life symbol and also wanting to ramp with momentum, that is something that you have to be aware of is that deadlock. So stepping on to the health gain sub-theme, Midst of Despair is just one of the better statted attacks right now. The response is really, really handy. A 5 high for 6/4 diff is pretty solid in general, and when you give symmetrical stats to it, the 7 high for 8 version feels really good. But if you don't have that, and even if you don't have the bonus 3 speed, Annie turning this into a throw so you can get the response also has a lot of merit. So that's something I really like about this card, is getting a whole bunch of stats with the transform side is probably your best game plan for closing out a game. But using the front side, Annie Leonhart, also gives you some pretty reliable extension plays. So I thought that was really cool that it kind of works with both sides of the character, and it's also a +1 high block, so it makes it in for that. We have one Colossus's Thermal Blast, and this is admittedly for the meme a bit. I mean, it's a 4-check, it's a 4-check attack and a +0 mid block, so that has its own value. A +0 mid block on a 4-check, you ignore all the other less than desirable numbers on this thing. I think you can excuse one copy of it. And hey, if you pull a Colossus's Thermal Blast, you're gonna find an excuse to put it in a deck. So just as a one of, a very spicy one of, similar to the Colossus Titan attacks. These are for when the game is going a super duper duper long. I mean, we don't really even have a way to cheat this out, right? We don't have a way to bonus our checks or reduce the difficulty. This is something that we're playing to hard cast in a very, very long game, the kind of game where things have stalled out and we're not even using Annie's discard 1 momentum because we don't want to transform just yet, because I do think you want to, you want to whittle the opponent down, right? Like, there's a reason why Annie gets to make things throws early on. So if you make this a throw and you get the Ruin 13 off, you're in a really good position even if you committed half your stage or most of your stage for it. So it's a little bit of a meme, but it has a solid application. Once you're transformed, a 13 difficulty 9 mid 9 doesn't seem like the biggest deal in the world, but again, it's something that your opponent has to deal with, right? If you can ever cast this. Otherwise, it's just a +0 mid block that can catch people off guard too. Instant Shining Flash, we do have, well, I guess, one way to reduce difficulty, but not by a super meaningful amount, especially when you don't have the way to clear the card pool, right? So -1 difficulty is not going to really help you play the Thermal Blast, but this is Momentum Hate. It does play very, very well with Midst of Despair. It makes your semi-okay strings feel like very safe. When you get to super deep strings, you're probably going to be chaining Mist of Despair more than you rely on this, but getting to that point, Instant Shining Flash is really helpful for that. So this one is one of the better reprints that we've seen. Life Symbol definitely liked the Momentum Hate that it gave it, and the ability to reduce difficulty to basically not count towards progressive for your next attack is very, very cool. My Heart is Set is a 3 damage move, so it gets overlooked a lot. But into this next format, that momentum enhanced to flip and change this attack speed to 4 is going to be super important. There's not a lot of great resets that you're going to get access to on the life symbol, unfortunately. So this is one of them, and we can make it a throw. So it going to momentum is a little more reliable. A lot of people won't block a 4 low for 3 in a aggressive string deck, right? But an aggressive string deck is probably not a 4 low for 3. So on Annie's front side, it's not a part of a working offense necessarily, but a stun 1 move that wears +2/+2 is still pretty decent, I think, when it comes to your late game offense. So I didn't feel too bad about it at any point in the game, but it's definitely there to be a throw and go to momentum and help us survive. And speaking of cards that go to momentum and help us survive, Blood Transfer is a +1 mid. I think mid blocks are going to be pretty popular this upcoming format just because they tend to have some pretty good modifiers on them. Although I guess for life you get good modifiers in every zone, but you've seen we've had a lot of +1 block mods. That's going to be pretty important coming up. Blood Transfer also helps us with our life gain sub theme because there are some pretty important things like Midst of Despair that want us to gain life. Hitting the opponent for 1 damage isn't too bad either. And if it's completely blocked, you get the top card of your deck to your momentum face up. And, we don't have a ton of hits, or like there's no strategy to put like My Heart is Set on top. But if you make this attack a throw and they still mid block it and it still deals damage, you'll end up with a bonus momentum. So I thought that was very cool for just like an early. Again, this is probably the first attack that ends up getting switched out, or the first one that gets, well, maybe, okay, it's probably the high difficulty ones, but either way, I definitely could see this one changing in the long term, but I love its utilization with carbo loading. I like that it lets me use Excited for Blood on the rival's turn. It's a big part of how Refreshing Blend became a center point of this deck. For the life symbol to ready foundations, Refreshing Blend is really cool. It almost acts kind of like another version of Annie's enhanced spend 1 momentum, right? So when you've got a ton of momentum going, if you can Refreshing Blend and use Annie on the same attack, before transforming and things like that, like you can get to that 9 super, super fast. And sometimes I don't want to transform. I mentioned that earlier. Sometimes games are going super late and there's not a lot of damage that I've dealt already, and I don't want to transform. So having something like Refreshing Blend to spend momentum on to ready a foundation is also really nice. And so with that, we'll transition actually into the foundations, and we'll save the assets and the titans for last because they're very, very obvious why they're in there. So Refreshing Blend, it helps us gain life, and I like that it functions very similar to Annie's spend 1 momentum when we don't want to transform, and we're especially when we're just trying to block or play 1 more card. So this one was kind of a late addition, but it makes a lot of sense, right? We want Midst of Despair to work. We need to pad out our 7-hander life total, even though they do get some bonus health in this set. There's some really big attacks coming, so Refreshing Blend is pretty important, I would say, especially as a momentum outlet. For not spending it for attacks, we need to be spending it somewhere else. So Carbo Loading, it gives us our damage pump. It lets us utilize our life gain synergies really, really well. When we make an attack a throw, we want to have a Carbo Loading out to up the punishment level of it. So I chose this one over the new 3-diff that readies potentially 2 foundations, simply because the damage pump is very reliable with a throw deck, and Annie can effectively make any attack a throw, so it made a lot of sense to use Carbo Loading instead of the new 3-diff that I'm blanking on the name of. Excited for Blood. This is an old school one, but we need a little bit of card draw, and again, it has that life gain theme to it, but mostly we needed some kind of repeatable card draw. But luckily, because we can make any attack a throw, I feel really confident and excited for Blood's ability to draw us cards and gain us the health when we need it to. Surprising skill and keeping Ares safe are pretty obvious why they're in here. Number 10 Pro Hero and Syndicate Target are also pretty obvious. They combine super well with Incredible Display. They give us more 6 checks, so we can actually pass some of these higher difficulty cards and some of these higher difficulty blocks that are coming out. Full on attack mode fits the life gain theme better than Nejire-chan, so we just went with full on attack mode. Plays better with throws, right? Rather than ask our rival if they want to block our throw, we're just going to say, look, you're going to take an extra 1 damage. So practical studies, got to have a little bit of that deadlock. The +1 speed's not a huge deal, but this is one of my favorite one-ofs. I don't really care too much to stack up a bunch of these too often, but when you go into deadlock, getting your best foundation sealed and dealing with a really big poke at the start of a turn is very frustrating, so this made it in. Talked about needing card draw earlier. Number 7 Pro Hero, it's a straight card draw when we have no cards in hand. So I put 1 in there for those turns where we got to get a little greedy, you know, if we're playing against, like, it lets you play kind of like a Botan's coaching that's repeatable. So I didn't have to play 4 of it, but I did want it represented in the deck. Dangerous Combatant. So we needed more card draw, but we also needed more low blocks. So this gets in here as a card draw option, kind of because of its block zone, but also because people are committing a lot of foundations with cards like Whirling Slash, you know, playing these big giant Titan attacks. You know, they're going to end their turn pretty close to, they're like, while attacking, they're going to be pretty close to activating this for you. So this one, it doesn't look super reliable, and I know it's not people's favorite 1/5 flip to draw card if you're not playing a stun deck or playing like exclusively Toga, but this has been pretty reliable for me, and it was the best low block option that fit my needs. Fast Friendship is quickly becoming one of the best speed hate cards, a 1/5 that flips for -3 very consistently, is super duper good. Size Specialist is cool because it helps clear our card pool. That with Incredible Display means that we're pretty much never going to have foundations in our card pool when we block. So lots of tricky little stuff you can do. Size Specialist also can help you like avoid deadlock and weird instances. So I'm a big fan of this one, just kind of replacing a foundation with it in your stage. Steadfast Resolve, again, it's at a 4 of here because we needed more low blocks. The low blocks on life were just a little wanting, a little lacking, at least in the foundation department. So this is definitely one of the best ones. And again, I don't always want to transform Annie. I don't always want to lose the ability to make an attack a throw. And so curating my stage so I can, you know, keep spending a momentum to get a new ready foundation and utilizing that resource outlet is pretty important. Horrifying Realization, we need the Botons, right? We like Botons with a stun sometimes at form speed, so you don't get to do it defensively. A lot of people complain that you can go to 0 cards and then flip Botons to just draw one, so you can't do that very effectively here. I guess you could play out your whole hand on your turn and then draw a card. So, but yeah, Horrifying Realization is a card I expect to see in a lot of decks. Incredible Display is probably something that should be a 3 of just because of how important it is. It is our primary momentum outlet, getting rid of nasty responses, getting rid of breakers, getting rid of throw hate, you know, canceling Faith Shield. They did make Willow Steel, which is pretty popular, and there are quite a few statics now that do it. But if you have any of these new cards that respond, like Detailing the Plan, or that's not the new one, but there's a new attack. I think it's like Scouting Titan Forest or something. It's not like Armin on horseback. It's like if you block a throw, you get to gain 4 health, which should negate most of the damage of a throw, right? If not all of it. So incredible display. Canceling throw hate is going to be kind of a big deal, and it's been a huge part of making up for the lack of card draw that Life has had in the past. Now we have a pretty decent amount. You know, again, I'm bringing back the Excited for Blood, so you know this is definitely a all-timer foundation. And then we got one Vast Strength. I love this card a lot. I really want to find more places for it in this deck. But right now it's at a 1 of because I just don't know how important it is actually going to be. It does hit Blitz abilities though. So it goes before Blitz. So that is super duper important. But there's a lot of decks right now that are relying on straight numbers. Vast Strength isn't very good into the Smiling Titans of the format, right? Not super great into the Mikasos, who are just going to be clearing their card pool and utilizing their character effects and playing, you know, sort of lackluster attacks. But I mean, it does dunk on a lot of stuff in the format, and it ruins combos. So maybe the final sideboard has some more copies of this, but fitting it in as a 2/4 has been a little tough. But this one is definitely really, really important. That being said, Military Police Brigade is an asset that I'm pretty sure only Annie Leonhart can use, or at least, you know, to get the full effect out of it. So flip 2 foundations, gain 3 health. If your rival, or if your character has the Military Police trait, draw 1 card. Seems a little costly, but the gain 3 health is actually really nice. And as the life symbol, we are going to end up with Syndicate targets and pro heroes in our stage. It is just going to happen sometimes that we have chaff foundations to flip anyways. So we needed more card draw. We needed more life gain. This does it. And we needed more low blocks. I really thought about putting this up to like a 4 of at one point, just to have more +2 low blocks. But it's not that game breaking, even though it's not unique and you could flip your whole stage to draw a bunch of cards and gain a bunch of health. That's the main thing, right? Is the diminishing returns of flipping 2 foundations on the same turn, activating multiple copies of this on the same turn, doesn't feel super great. Idune Box, also a very good low block that I thought about just kind of being corny and running more copies of, but this one is unique, so didn't want to run into those issues. But definitely a staple of probably every format, a super good 1 of, if nothing else. And you know, if it's unblockable, it is no longer unblockable. It is a line of text that is on this card. So it really does save you from everything. Return it to printed everything. Make it unblockable, blockable again. What more can you ask for? Then we've got Titan Small. After you block with it, you can build it, which is really sick when you flip the other side of Annie, right? Don't forget, lose 1 health. Try to block your rival's attack with a backup from your stage. So a mid block for the rest of the game, as long as you can successfully block with it. And then it's got an ability for -1 or +1 speed. So it's not nothing, but these aren't super great cards. They're 2 ofs only because I do want to get something when I transform. And having a +1 high block banked in my stage doesn't sound bad at all. But really, the lose 1 stamina, this attack gets 2 damage. If your rival has 10 or more foundations, it gets 2 speed. That is really nice, right? It combines with our 2/2 from our character late game. So giving 4/4 to an attack for committing 2 cards on our stage is pretty strong. It's not nothing, but I know that these cards have been seen as pretty underwhelming. But I do think that they are worth including in the deck if your character has any kind of synergy with it. Definitely don't forget to have your free +1 high block as well. Well, not free, you pay 1 life. Anyhow, that's the deck. Let's move on to the gameplay. What's up, everybody? We got the gameplay to go along with the deck profile here. We've got Annie Leonhart, and hopefully you watched the deck profile video, so I don't have to tell you too much of what the plan with this deck is, but we've definitely got some momentum-based synergies. We've got a life gain sub-theme, which seems pretty important in the Attack on Titan set. I do gotta say that they really nailed a lot of the theme, you know, the emphasis on worlds that we visit and trying to make the worlds feel thematic. I started reading the Attack on Titan manga and they really nailed it. But first we've got a Deception Dagger coming down from our opponent here. They're going to remove a Fast Friendship to give it that +3 speed, and this is looking a little rough, but luckily the life symbol has really, really good block mods. So we're going to eat the stun 2 here. We don't want to use too many resources early. There's going to be really specific focal points in which you have to use your interaction. In the past, I think that there was a lot of a attrition-based gameplay where you're just trying to not fall too behind on resources too early. But right now we got to watch out for really specific plays. So we're lucky that it was just a little Deception Dagger poke, but our rival has a pretty big stage now. So if they get to clearing their card pool too much, it might be a little bit of an issue for us. And now we see one of the better new attacks, Double Bladed Spin. It's got Blitz, Mill 3, add up to 1 weapon attack and up to 1 weapon foundation milled this way to your hand. So obviously lots of weapons in the set, the death symbol getting absolutely loaded up with them. And right now the biggest issue is my hand is a lot of highs and a low block. So we don't have the mid, and we want to prevent our rival from getting more attacks, but they have another Double Bladed Spin, so it's not going to be great. And with Levi's ability to pick up a weapon attack, there's no way that they're not going to have some kind of gas for this turn. So yeah, we flip over Whirling Slash and Deception Dagger. Both are pretty bad for us right now, but I have to assume the Whirling Slash is going to be the choice here because that's going to allow them to extend pretty far. So clearing that card pool, getting another attack that has a chance to add another attack, the things can get out of hand pretty quick. Luckily, the Whirling Slash does require commit 3 foundations. So if they do want to commit to this turn and we survive, well, we will be in a good position, right? So we're going to clear a card pool with that incredible display, add that +1 block back to our hands, and we're going to look at this Whirling Slash coming down here. So Whirling Slash is one of the better attacks. 3 high for 5, you can commit 3 foundations. This attack and your next attack will get 1 speed for every foundation you commit. If you commit at least 1, you get to draw a card, which is crazy good. And then if you committed 3 foundations this way, your next air attack this turn gets -3 difficulty. So as long as you're playing another air attack, you're really getting a refund on those 3 foundations committed. You know, committing 1 foundation to have a 4 high for 5 draw card is also pretty good. I think that's going to be an underrated use of the card. Everyone's going to want to completely commit out for it, but we're still in a totally fine position. They haven't affected our board, right? Without that Deception Dagger, we decide to draw the card here and now, hopefully finding ourselves a little bit more interaction than just good block zone or good block mods. But we've got the right block zones, we've got the right block mods. So here comes the second Whirling Slash. So this one's going to be pretty easy to pass, but we are going to have the correct block mod for it and check a 5. So we get out of there pretty unscathed. 14 health, enough to deter them from attempting any more attacks, even if they had another air attack, which I'd have to assume that they did, but feeling pretty lucky here. We don't have anything on the board though, right? We don't have any damage in yet, and we're not trying the most aggressive hands, but that's okay because this deck isn't meant to pop off insanely fast. We are meant to kind of get ourselves into a board state where we can overwhelm our opponent with stats. And while I would like to have a better punishment here than just getting a 3 damage move into our momentum, you see I commit the character to make it a throw just to make sure, because this is the important one, right? This is the one that we really want to see make it into our momentum, because it has the all-important speed reset down to 4, not to printed, down to a specific number. This is a card that life symbol decks didn't really feel the need to run before. People didn't really value the reset down to the 4. And I think that that's going to be really important now that we have these giant 8-9 difficulty attacks. Now we've got things with printed 10 speed on them. You're really going to want to reset down to a specific number. So We gain the health from the asset. We get to draw another card. We are the only character who can do that with this asset, which is going to allow us to play a Mist of Despair for a 5 high for 6. And when it deals, our next card ignores progressive, so we're going to get to play this Titan backup on a 4 here. And these backups are really only in the deck because Annie gets to search for them when she transforms. They're unfortunately not very good cards. I mean, I'm down to be proven wrong and see like a strategy that utilizes them really well. But for right now, a 4 difficulty 6 check that just once per turn, commits to give a card -1 or +1 speed, not feeling the best. We're fighting down that double-bladed spin that we saw earlier get added back to the hand. So Levi making sure that he always has something to get started and picking up another Whirling Slash. So we're kind of in for it this turn, I have to feel. Levi luckily is a 6-hander, so there are some chances that we don't have tons of heat. But if you also look at the stage, there's 3 Botons coaching, and we're not using those yet. We've also got a Refreshing Slice with some momentum, so we're in a little bit of a pickle. But again, Life Symbol has some crazy block mods. So between Incredible Display and our block mods, I think we're going to be all right, especially since, again, this Whirling Slash requires an upfront commitment, and our rival's doing it pretty early. I don't know exactly where the optimal point to do the Whirling Slash is. Normally, I would want to save them for like the penultimate attack, and this time it looks like we're going to pick one up. So these attacks are easily the fastest things we've seen. So I'm choosing not to block the Whirling Slashes, opting to hope that something slower comes out. Of course, if we're only ever going to be playing Whirling Slashes, then it's probably not going to happen. So the second one, of course, is faster than the first. The next Whirling Slash would be super fast, but it looks like we didn't have enough foundations to pay for everything. Our rival's down to only 2 ready foundations, so we're going to take this one and hope that the next Whirling Slash just isn't that much faster. They won't have the ability to play around the reset, and so it'll be much, much easier to block this one. We're going to discard a momentum here. We're going to gain 2 health with Refreshing Blend. But what I missed on that was actually that they had a Red Ride's the coolest. So this is still going to end up being lethal. My super clever plan to not have to block this one did not pan out, but we do force out that resource. We are going to flip to reset down to 4 speed. We then get to use a Titan Small to put it down to a very easily blockable position. And really, our rival just didn't have enough foundations. That Whirling Slash has a huge cost to it, and while the benefits are undoubtedly amazing, chaining them together ad nauseum, not really a game plan that's working out here. They needed to be either replacing foundations, readying them. They didn't use any of their draw power. The Refreshing Slices only went so far, right? So this Whirling Slash is going to get blocked. We do have options here. I go for the greedy play, and we're actually going to partial block with the Size Specialist, not only because I would really like to keep this attack in my hand because we haven't had the most aggressive turns, but if the next attack they play is a high attack, that's the one I want to completely block, right? So I take the half block where I can. I don't add it back to my hand because I want to review, I want to get attacks. And now our rival's at 19 from our pokes before, and we don't have a super aggressive hand. However, I think you're going to find that this is going to be just enough when our rival is committed out. So we weathered the storm of double-bladed spins and multiple Whirling Slashes on back-to-back turns. So we're going to transform here. We're going to become the female Titan. And so now when we transform into Annie female Titan, we get to search our deck. We get to go get a backup of 4 or less, I think it is. But there's only 2 options. It's Titan, small, and medium. So you get one of those 2. We get the one that we don't already have, of course. But now, importantly, we get to commit foundations for 2 speed and 2 damage. And that is where this character goes from a grindy throw deck into something a bit more aggressive. So we're going to draw with Dangerous Combatant, try to get another attack into, maybe force some damage in, but it's not looking super good. We're down to only 2 face-up foundations. But a 6 high for 6 proves unblockable, even with the +1 block mod. So We're going to flip our last 2 foundations. We get to gain a little bit of health, but what's important is we need to draw another attack. But that's not another attack, so we're going to have to rely on our speed to get through. A 6 speed move did it against a +1 high block. They have 1 foundation ready. They were hoping to check a 6 and commit that refreshing slice, but luckily we also killed momentum with instant shining flash, right? So not going to be able to do that again. 5 high for 6 is a pretty good stat line because we did gain that health off of the asset. We are going to commit a foundation to make this 7 high for 8. Super duper unblockable. This will be 14 damage on the turn. And then the final shining flash comes in on a 6. We cannot fail it. We don't have 2 checks in the deck, so at worst we would have had to commit our character for the +2/+2. Gonna throw the last little bit of speed on this one. And we're gonna throw the Titan medium stats on it, and you can see the opponent throwing in the towel. So getting that Titan that adds 1 speed or 2 damage is kind of a small little benefit, but it's something that you shouldn't necessarily underestimate. You know, going to get a free backup into the stage, and really, you know, coming the foundation for +2/+2 is what got us there. The solid defense from the life symbol there was really, really big, and I hope that you guys see the importance of the stat resets. That's going to be probably the biggest thing going into this format, especially for the life symbol. It doesn't have the cape of no return. It has resets to printed. It has ways to reuse really good blocks, but you are going to have to find ways to put speeds probably below printed, or at least down to a fixed number. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that gameplay, give you a little taste of how the deck functions and how just one little poke turn, you know, combined with some solid defense is going to get you into that transforming stage of the game where a very simple string can take down a 6-hander. Like, share, comment below. Let me know what you guys are putting in your Annie Leonhart decks. Maybe I missed the mark. Maybe you've already found an iteration that you like better.